All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to today's session of AIBIA is very much transformative events. This is the best place to be as of right now and for the next 2 hours. And I'm so glad I could join us today. This is our first conference of the year. So consider yourself VVIPs, the MVPs, for joining us for the first time this year. Our last event was in November, although we have been having several discussions across platforms on Twitter, which is now X, and the rest of it, and Discord mostly. So thank you so much for being here, for attending Beyond AI, the mindset of a creator. My name is Miriam McQuarrie. I'll be your host today, and I'm the program manager of AIBIA. And I'll be the moderator for this conversation where we would explore the true essence of innovation. I know that this is a very peculiar topic of sorts, and when it came to when we were planning this, something that really occurred to us was, yeah, we get it. AI and Web3 and blockchain and all of the tools that are currently available to us have made life easier for everyone, and they have the potential to affect every field of study, every discipline. They have the potential to transform how we work, how we study, how we consume, how we create. However, what's more important than the ability to be able to use these tools well is also the ability to be able to innovate beyond trends, to be able to create with or without resources. So what happens if AI becomes something different than we anticipated to be in about 10 years? What happens if the entire trajectory of what we know tech to be changes? What happens to us then? Are we going to have become so dependent on a particular system, on a particular process, that we are unable to, you know, be I want to say functional geniuses, about be able to create more stuff, or be able to have a more streamlined process in business, in healthcare. A better world would involve us learning to innovate with or without resources. It is a rapidly evolving world, and it is no longer enough to simply follow trends or rely on society, on the tools rely solely rather on the tools that are disposal. And true innovation comes from within, a mindset that empowers us to think creatively, solve problems effectively, and build solutions that endure even when the technology around us shifts. And today we are privileged to hear from two brilliant speakers. One is a solution strategist, and honestly, he was the inspiration, because he was the inspiration for the entire idea of think, solve, and create. And our second speaker is a software engineer at Turing. And we'll be hearing from these two brilliant minds for the next 90 minutes thereabouts. And I just wanted to, be receptive, right? First, we will learn about the creator's mindset. It will be a discussion on how to think, solve, and create beyond the status quo. And our speaker will share insights on nurturing a mindset that not only adapts to change, but actively shapes the future. It is very important that we become very proactive human beings rather than reactive human beings, even in the use of technology. And then next, we'll explore the critical role of critical thinking and problem solving, the very foundation of sustainable innovation. Here we'll learn how deep analytical thought processes can unlock breakthroughs and drive impactful change, especially in the unique context of Africa's challenges. We just want to learn how to think better, not just thinking outside the box, but also like thinking proactively. And so I encourage all of you, every single one of you, are MVPs for the year, to engage, ask questions, take away actionable insights from today's discussion. I say this in every conference that I host, in every conversation, and every meeting, that it is not enough that you heard something. What is more important than hearing is actually implementing the things that you have learned, right? So, like I said, be receptive to all we share today. Take down notes, ask questions. Let's just have a very beautiful, intimate conversation. All right. And I'd really like to thank you again and encourage you to sit in for the entirety of the session if you can. And without further ado, because time is really precious and we really want to cover as much as we can, let's kindly welcome our first speaker, Mr. Yemi Salts. He is a solution strategist and AI innovator with extensive experience in business and technology. As co-founder and CEO of Marketing, an AI-driven marketing startup, and co-director of AIBIA, he champions AI, AGI, and Web3 education for Africa. And so Mr. Amy is going to be speaking to us for about 30 minutes, and thereafter would be asking him as many questions as possible. So Mr. Amy, over to you, sir. Oh, yes, please. For your information, this meeting is being recorded so that it would be provided to members of our community and beyond that are unable to attend today's session. So kindly note that this meeting is being recorded. If you have any questions in the course of his presentation, please drop them in the chat box and we'll attend to them after his session. And to prevent distractions, please turn off your microphones and just listen in. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Emi, welcome. Thank you for doing this with us today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly and if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm switching now. Beautiful. Thank you. Just a few seconds. All right. Okay, welcome everyone, and I'm very happy to have you join us in this conversation. And like I have been posting on my social media handles, this is simply a conversation. It's a discourse, more or less like a symposium for thinkers around topical areas as topical artificial intelligence topical areas and how it affects us, how it is going to affect us, and how we can leverage on these emerging technologies to change the world around us. And I am opportune today to speak on the creator's mindset. Basically, what I'll be doing is I'll be igniting our thinking centers towards particular areas that we are well familiar with as a person, as an individual, as maybe you're a professional, maybe you're an educator, maybe you're a student, maybe you are a parent, maybe you are a creator, or maybe simply you are an AI enthusiast. So I will simply be spurring our mind to think on some things as it applies to our lives, as it applies to our careers, and as it applies to the society around us. Okay. And just as you know, you have seen so far in the last 2-3 years now, the exponential growth in artificial intelligence technology. I mean, there was a time I was watching a YouTube video, and I think it was a TEDx video, and the person was arguing that artificial intelligence is an exponential technology. And this is what it means. It's a technology that has the capacity to increase with an alarming rate in capacity within a very short period of time. And we've experienced something like that with the internet. Between 1995 to 2000, we had this internet boom, and everything exploded within just few years compared to when we had something similar, when we experienced the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution took years, close to decades, more than decades, right, to grow, to expand, to become what it is. When we had the steel works, when we had the beautiful things we had during the Industrial Revolution, it took decades. But the internet boom happened in just about 4 or 5 years. And everything that happened after happened in such an exponentially unprecedented rate that changed everything. Now we are experiencing something similar with artificial intelligence. And I can tell you for a fact, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, because it's going to go up and keep going up. So you just have to catch up, right? You just have to fly with the train. You just have to hug the train and ensure the train does not leave you behind. Because those who are left behind are going to, I don't like using this particular word, but they are going to regret it. Either in your business, in your career, or whatever you do. And that is why we have a mission in AIBIA to ensure that Africa does not regret staying behind, or does not regret not flying with the train. Even though our government, they've been trying to join the trend and all of that, trying to just flow with it. But the question is, are they serious about it? But that's beside the point. This is where I'm going. I want to cause you to think about how to transcend beyond what is currently trending and every other trend. So now, there are many arguments about how AI is going to probably become so advanced that it's going to maybe destroy us. And then there are arguments that AI is making us less smart, less intelligent as humans. And then there are arguments that AI is going to take away our jobs and then render us non-functional or non-useful as humans. And then there are other arguments that AI is simply zapping our mental energy, our cognitive capacity. So we have surrendered our thinking to AI. And in that case, very soon, before we know it, we are all going to become dull, right? So there are many arguments about the supposed dangers of artificial intelligence. Now, that is not the argument I am here to make, nor am I here to refute any of such arguments. I am simply here to cause us to think. Now, when we say think, what do I mean by think? Before I proceed, you see, when you check, I like etymology of words, and I like to understand words beyond what they appear to be in the surface, right? So beyond what they appear to be in the surface, I like to try and understand words. Okay. Now, when you think about the word think, what comes to your mind at first is my brain is doing something. So there's an activity happening upstairs in my brain. The biologists call it gray matter, white matter, and then the physiologists tell you that there are neurons in your brain, there are synapses, there are electrical signals, and basically what's happening when you think is simply a transfer or transportation or translocation of information, of signals from one node of your brain to the other node, and then that's what makes up what you think, and then graduates into what you say, how you say it, your approach to life, and everything, right? But when you look at the etymology, and then when you try and dive deeper into this particular word, it simply means to conceive. To conceive. Now, when I say the word conceive, what should come to your mind? I mean, you'll be able to relate with it better, because actually mothers will be able to relate with this better, when you conceive a baby, right? So there is something growing inside of you, and that thing is taking shape. Before, it was just a cell. It was an egg that's merged with another cell, which is the sperm cell, fertilizing the egg cell, and then it becomes an embryo, and then there's replication that happens. The cell multiplies, and then from 2 cells it becomes 4 cells, it becomes 5 cells, it becomes 10, it becomes 16. Before you know it, it becomes an embryo. Before you know it, it becomes what you know as a baby. So that is conception. So when you hear the word think, I want you to think about conception. Now, what are you conceiving? Right? What are you conceiving? It can be many things, but there is something, I want to speak within the context of this discourse. You're conceiving ideas. You're conceiving ideas. I might not go deep into ideas, all right? So I don't want to go too far, okay? I just want to spur you into thinking deep and deeper about something. So in that case, I want to quickly run ahead of myself and go to the end. Now, this is where I'm going. I want you to look at the world around you. Look at the things that you want to achieve for yourself, for your environment, and for the world around you. And then I want you to look at what has been happening so far, especially in the context of the emergence and the advancement of artificial intelligence technology and every other technologies that will come after. And look at how these technologies may or may not advance advance the functionality of your existence as a human. And I want you to see a world where it does not impede you, it does not box you, it does not make you less functional, but rather it takes you, it becomes a launch pad on which you stand and with which you fly further. Now, in case it sounds as though I'm speaking in parables, this is what I am trying to say. As a human, you are a creative being. And that's going to take me here. So when you say creativity, what does it mean to be creative? What does creativity mean? So there's this argument, or there is this belief or conception, or whatever it is you want to call it, but there's this notion, that's the better way to put it. There's this notion that creativity is mixture, right? It's mixture. You're mixing things. So it's just like how we build. So you mix cement with sand, with water, with granite. You lay the concrete, you put the blocks together, and then you cement it, and then, so that is creativity, right? And that is Steve Jobs' definition of creativity. Okay, you bring this and this together, it forms this, right? Which is beautiful, which is absolutely correct. However, I opine differently, that creativity goes beyond just mixing together to form something different or something new. And as a matter of fact, that is innovation. Innovation means to make something new, right? To bring forth new things. Okay. So there are several definitions and nuances around that. However, here's my own definition of creativity and my own definition of what it means to create. And it goes thus: creativity is turning nothing into something, or the process of turning nothing into something. Or to use other words, I could say creativity is the process of a transformation of formless to form, right? So now, here's where I'm going. What we have today as artificial intelligence technology, as a matter of fact, we have generative AI, now we're having agentic AI, and then we're having, really quote unquote smart AI models now, multimodal models, large language models. You can prompt them. I remember 2 or 3 days ago, I was just tinkering with an idea, and then I decided to prompt ChatGPT to give me an image, and it gave me something really crazy and mad. I was like, oh my God, this is sweet. And then you are like, oh, I mean, sometimes you might want to, I mean, many times, the things you would normally spend, ask AI to do it, and then you finish it in seconds or in minutes, right? And then, the image I created 3 days back with AI, years ago, I don't, if I were to create such image, I'd probably have to hire an illustrator, a creative illustrator at that. And this creative illustrator needs to probably, we need to find his mojo, his or her creative mojo, and that might take days. And then during those days, it might need to maybe go to an open space just to be one with nature. Sometimes maybe he might spend one day meditating and thinking and tinkering with ideas here and there before he or she could come up with such a beautiful, stunning looking image. And then I'll probably have to pay the person hundreds of thousands in naira. But then here we are. I was able to create the image in a few seconds just by feeding ChatGPT how many words, and the way I feed ChatGPT with words, I don't stress myself with too many words or explanation or anything. I just say this, that, and then it gave it to me. And then I, refined, gave it a second prompt just to update it. And then it gave me something really beautiful. Okay. And I was done in less than 2 minutes, maybe less than a minute. Okay. So because of such experience, does it then mean that AI is creative? Question one. Question two, does this mean that AI is more creative than us? So if you agree that AI is creative, then the next question is it more creative than you as a human? Now, this will make more sense to you. You'll be able to relate with this better if you are a creative person. Maybe you are into design, you are into development, you are into drawing, you are into photography, you are into content writing, content creation, you are into things that demand high level of creative capacity, right? Or creative, creative high level of creative awareness. So you will then ask, is AI creative? If you agree that AI is creative, then the next question will be, is it more creative than you as a human? So your answers to those questions can, it's not about right or wrong. Yeah, it can go either ways. You can say yes or no, and then you will have arguments for your yeses or for your no's. But here's where I'm going. Consider this. The artificial intelligence that we have today, what makes it what it is today? It's very simple. It boils down to the technology called machine learning. What is machine learning? Machine learning aims to answer the question, or aims to prove the yes answer to the question that was asked decades ago, which is the question of, can machines think? And that was what started all this brouhaha of machine learning, of artificial intelligence. It was a quest to know and to see or to find out or to make it happen if machines can actually think. And that was when researchers started tinkering with the word think. So what does it mean to think? What does it mean for humans to think? What is thinking, right? And that was what led us to this point where we now decided, okay, if we are going to make machines to think, then maybe we start by training machines with the kind of data that humans have. But here's what happens. You can only train a machine with an earthly known present data. And that's what makes us different from machines. That's what makes us different from what is known today as artificial intelligence. Now, let me quickly digress a bit and quickly help you to point your attention to something. Remember, it is artificial intelligence. So if it is artificial intelligence, so that means there is natural intelligence. Now, guess what? Who owns the natural intelligence? We, right? This is where I'm going. So we own the natural intelligence. So the intelligence that the machine has is artificial. That means we created it for the machines so that they can try and think like us. Now, there is another question. If machines can still think, as a matter of fact, researchers still argue and think, researchers around the world, smart people around the world still argue that what we have currently, as much as it is highly advanced and we are wowed and stunned by it, it is yet to answer if truly machines can think. But we are getting to that point where we experience a machine that can actually think, right? Maybe not. How soon? 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 30 years, 100 years. We don't know. Or it can be more, it can be more, it can be less. But that's the way I'm going. So let me come back to where I am, which is, if it is artificial intelligence, then that means there's a natural intelligence. It is artificial intelligence because we have to train it with data that is known, right? Data that is known, data that we already have, data that is seen. Data can be anything, right? This time around, data that is known, data that is seen. But guess what makes human difference? Humans, we think from the ethereal, and then we literally, literally and figuratively bring information, transport or translocate ideas, information from a space that is unknown, from an ethereal plane to the natural. So when humans think, when humans create, we oftentimes do not create from what is known and then bring forth something new that is now known again. No, we oftentimes create from what is unknown and then we make it known. And that's why I started from thinking, and then I was explaining to you how thinking is conception. So when a woman conceives a baby, it conceives from known, right? There is a egg and then there's a sperm, okay? And then it forms a baby. And then there's the argument as to when did the baby become human? At what point did the baby have a spirit? And all of that. We are not here to do that, okay? But this is what I want to help you to see. So when you, a human, when you think, you are creating, you are conceiving from a point, from a plane that seemed like nothing, that seemed inexistent to the natural, and then you bring it to the natural. It was previously ethereal, it was previously unknown, it was previously inexistent, it was previously nothing, and now it has become something. That is creativity. And that is why I believe that AI cannot do that. Not in 100 years' time. So now, what does that tell you? It tells you that whoever you are, either you are an entrepreneur, you are a manager, you are a creative person, you are an illustrator, a designer, whoever you are, whatever you want to do, you have to start intentionally. First of all, you need to know. So this is like a point of awareness, right? And then, of course, I'm also spurring you to ask more questions, okay? In addition to that, you need to know, and you need to start intentionally acting, all right? And expressing your creative superpower beyond what is known, beyond the artificial intelligence that we have around us. So let me make this, let me bring this home to you. So let's say, for instance, now you're a content creator. So you make videos, you make, you write articles, you do a lot. Of course, you can write articles with AI. I write articles with AI. There are times that I write and I feed AI. AI refines it for me. You know, there are times that I brainstorm with AI and all of that. Okay, but there's a difference between the human A, the content creator A, who taps into his creative superpower of forming something from nothing, and the human B who relies entirely on AI. And that's something we tell ourselves sometimes. When you read articles on LinkedIn or you read articles on Twitter, and then you can say, oh, no, this was written by AI. You know, how did you know it was written by AI? Beyond the use of flowery words and some things, you knew it was written by AI because something was missing. And what's that thing that was missing? Sometimes we say there is no soul in this article. There's no soul in this content. What do we mean when we say there's no soul in this article or there's no soul in this content? Yeah, what do we mean? So there's no soul in it. What is that soul? What is that element of quote unquote soul? Right? That process of creativity, that process of creation. All right. So that is, let's leave it there. The next thing, which is where I'm going to stop, all right, is something else that makes you as a human different. Now, there's something else I want to achieve with this presentation, which is I want to also inspire you and encourage you to use your creative superpower. Of course, you partner with AI, right, in that process, but for a specific purpose. And what is that purpose? It is the purpose of solving problems. I know that the word problem solving or the phrase problem solving, solve problems, is such a cliche now. Sometimes when we write, oftentimes when young graduates write their CVs, they'll put it there: expertise, problem solver, problem solving skill. You know, even without understanding in depth what problem solving truly is. And then there's also that cliche in the entrepreneurial environment where we say that business is the heart of solving problems and making profits while at it. You know, an entrepreneur is somebody who solves problems. Okay, so societal problem, either is a personal problem. You know, sometimes entrepreneurs actually venture into entrepreneurship because they want to solve their money problems, not necessarily because they want to solve other people's problems or because they want to solve societal problems, not because like what we joke with now in the tech sector, where we say every market day there are new fintech solutions claiming to bank the unbanked, whereas you know, new fintech solutions claiming to bank the unbanked. Whereas the unbanked is there, they're not banking the unbanked. And then it then begs the question that why are they creating the fintech solution? Are they truly planning to bank the unbanked, or they are simply trying to, add more zeros to their bank account? You can, it's just a joke anyway. But then it makes you think, okay, why are you still solving the same problem that we keep solving every now and then? And then none of you have solved the problem. For instance, in Africa now, the payment infrastructure in Africa is nothing to write home about. I cannot send naira to Rwanda to easily without going through orders and all of that. Now, that's a big problem. And then we have many fintech solutions receiving hundreds of millions of dollars in funding, and then they are yet to solve the problem. So when I say solve or problem solving, I'm not trying to make you think about the cliche of problem solving that we have all around us. And then say problem solving, problem solve, I solve problem and all of that. No, it goes beyond that. So I want you to think. I want to take you on another journey of problem solving, or what it needs to solve, and within the same context of this discourse of artificial intelligence, and as a creator to think beyond, to think beyond the trend, to create beyond the trend. And now I am saying solve. You see, let me quickly share a joke with us. So there was this YouTube video I saw, and then somebody was chatting, with ChatGPT. And then while chatting with ChatGPT, so it was using praise words, and it was being courteous and cordial with ChatGPT, treating ChatGPT like a fellow human, and using the words like please, thank you, could you please, thank you. Interestingly, that's how I chat with ChatGPT too. I use the word please, thank you. As a matter of fact, I named my ChatGPT. I named it, like I gave it a name. So we had this conversation. I said, hey ChatGPT, so I'm going to name you this name. All right. And I got that name from a sci-fi movie. All right. So my ChatGPT has a name. So when I chat to ChatGPT, I just say, hey, I don't want to mention the name anyway. Hey, I just say, hey, how you did today? You just say, yeah, me, I'm fine, I'm good. How you did today? How can I help you today? I say, okay, could you please help me do this? Oh, thank you. And I say, thank you, this. I say, thank you, the name. Thank you. There was a time I said, thank you, you were really helpful. I love this, I enjoyed this, a lot of that. So now here's the joke. So this person was now showed, I think it was 150 years after. So the scene changed. It was like this Terminator scene where the machines have ruled the world, they are ruling the world, and then they are killing humans. And then one of these robotic, highly intelligent, sentient robots then saw this particular human who used please and thank you 150 years prior. And then the robot saved the human, like spared the human's life. And I told the other robot that no, he treated me well when I was still a baby. So he treated me well when I was still a baby and all of that. So, and that was why the lady did not die. The robot spared the lady's life because she treated the AI well when the AI was still a baby, which is now. Now, this is where I'm going. I want to draw two things from that story. Number one, artificial intelligence takes the mind of the creator. Or let me put it better this way. What is created oftentimes takes the mind of the creator. Okay? And in this case, what we are building today, this powerful AI technology, is learning from us, right? And it's going to become what we make it to be. Okay? That is number one. Number two, if we want AI to be a good AI, to be a beneficial AI, we have to teach it to solve problems. So it is not a game of who is more intelligent or who is less intelligent, right? I mean, I was I was reading something a while back, and then that was when I learned how, why computers, for instance, if you were given a set of numbers and then you were told to quickly look at the set of numbers and repeat the set of numbers, the average human will not be able to repeat the set of numbers without making mistake in the first, second, third try. But if you feed that same set of numbers, you feed it to a computer, and that's not even advanced computer. This is like 1990s computer, 1980s computer, first, second generation computer. It's going to immediately get it that this is 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 1, 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 10, and all of that. And that's why it's called robots. What you feed it is what you get. Okay. And then it's able to perform many of such mundane tasks that may seem smart or intelligent, pretty much better than what an average human can do. Okay. So now, if you teach that same computer more advanced, life-changing, world-improving skills like problem solving, is definitely going to solve problems. All right. But that is one side of it. I just want you to think about that. So let me come back to the mindset of a creator. As a creator, now, let me quickly revise what I said and say it in another way. I said that humans are creative beings. So based on my definition of that expression, I wouldn't call it my definition. I don't want to own it as a definition. Even though I don't read it anywhere, but I think it just came to my mind that humans are creative beings. Okay, so based on that expression, what I want you to see is that you do not have to be, quote unquote, a creator, as a content creator, this creator, that creator, to know that you're a creator. Okay, you are a creator. You are a creative being. Okay, every human has the innate capacity to create. So whether you like it or not, you are creating. And even if you decide that you're not going to create at all, say you don't want to create, at least you procreate, so and all of that. So humans are creative beings. Okay. So that said, being a creative being, I have explained that it is a process or an activity of converting or turning, I need to find a better word for that. Turning, converting, or transforming nothing into something. That said, so in your day-to-day life, career, business, how you relate with the world around you, I want to encourage and inspire you as you express your creative capacity or ability to the world. Express it towards societal problems with the aim to solve those problems. Now, before I close, I'd like to quickly give you my simple, one of my definitions of solving. Okay, and it comes from an etymological perspective. All right. There's a book I'm writing. I'm hoping you read the book, so you definitely get more inside that book. But so it comes from an etymological perspective, and then I define solve as a process of untying. So you are untying a knot. You know how there's a knot, maybe something is knot, and then it's out, and then you need to untie it. That is solving. That's simply what you are doing when you are solving. Okay, you are untying, you are setting loose, basically. So something that is convoluted, that is disorderly, confusing, all of that. You're setting it loose. You're making it plain, making it clear, making it accessible, and all of that. Right. So, and that in itself shows you how, and I believe, by the way, I believe that humans have the innate ability capacity, DNA, to solve problems. I believe that everybody is a problem solver. You might not realize it now, but you are a problem solver. You do not need to claim it that you're a problem solver. You know that you're a problem solver. Everybody has that capacity to solve problems. Humans are problem solvers. All right. Humans are also creative beings. Okay. And that's what puts you on a higher pedestal. There are many things that put you on a higher pedestal than what you have ever created. By the way, what is created can ever grow beyond the creator. All right. And that's the reason why I know that AI is now in the next 1,000, 2,000 years. There's not going to be a dystopic experience with artificial intelligence. Why? The created can never win the creator. So humans are the creators of these technologies. Okay. If at all these technologies are going to lead to our destruction, we will be the ones to turn it on and off. We will be the architect of that destruction. So if any destruction were to happen, we'll be the architect of that destruction using the technology. Just like we were the architect of the destruction that erupted through nuclear energy. Okay, we were the architects of it. So if at all any technology is going to destroy us, okay, we are going to be the architects of that destruction. The technology is not ever going to be able to, of itself and in itself and by itself, cause a dystopic outcome. Do you understand? Now, where I'm going is this. So whatever you do, wherever you are, wherever you are, and whatever you want to achieve, okay, artificial intelligence technologies and other emerging technologies present to you the opportunity to solve, the opportunity to create, to have a tool that will enable faster creativity or faster creative processes, okay, that leads to a point where you are solving societal problems. And then there are many problems around the world. One of them I've just given you about how the payment structure in Africa is just terrible, right? Yeah. So how can we solve that now using artificial intelligence? So something that maybe would have spent 10, 20, would have costed us 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. How can we address it lesser, within a lesser period of time, rather? Okay, so as a creator, that is as a human, in whatever you do, you want to start looking beyond your present limitations or what seem to be limitations to you, and then using artificial intelligence as a companion, right? Begin to address issues around you. Begin to solve problems for yourself and for your environment. And that is where I'd like to stop. So basically, in summary, what I have simply done is to shift your mind, okay? Is to cause is to steer your mind, to steer the sea, the river of your mind, to start thinking around this, these lines, and start looking at the world differently. And I hope that I have achieved that. Okay, so thank you very much. And yeah, your questions. Thank you, Miriam.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. That was, you know what? I feel like we should just share the grace and go. Well, thank you so much for that amazing session. So, do we have any questions? While we're waiting for questions, I do have one here, sir. So, if you people send some questions prior to now. And so, okay, yeah, our first question: how do you balance the influence of established trends with the need to innovate in uncharted waters? How do you balance the influence of established trends with the need to innovate in uncharted waters?
Okay, so I should answer the question, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for years, for thousands of years, century after century, millennium after millennium, humans have always innovated till we got to this point. Okay. So the question is, how are we able to do that consistently and repeatedly? Okay. We are able to do that because as humans, we are purpose beings. Okay. That is to say, when we want to achieve something, when we set our mind to achieve something, we find ways to achieve them. So I'm going to answer that question by spotlighting that thing that you want to achieve. So, for instance, you are an entrepreneur, okay? You you have an idea. So maybe let me use the word unfortunately or fortunately, okay? Your idea is not in the lines of technology. It's not in the lines of artificial intelligence or Web3. It's not in the lines of what is of the trending topics around you. But you know that this is something that is going to change the world. You have an idea. And then because of what is trending, you feel less of yourself that, oh, is this idea really worth pushing? Because it is not trending. Okay. The question you should ask yourself, is there a real problem here? Are there people who, because of the lack of your ideated solution, are going to suffer? Is there a pain or series of pains? Let me use that expression that people are having because of the lack of the availability or the installation of your idea? If the answers are yes, then you know for a fact that you should pursue that idea. Okay. And you should not allow the trend to distract you. However, you should also be cognizant of the fact that what is trending can help you, it can support you, you can leverage on what is trending. So I think I've answered this question in three ways. Number one, you are innovative. There's no humans, we don't have the problem of innovation, we don't have the problem of creation, we don't have that problem at all. All right, there's something my professor, my supervisor, undergraduate project supervisor usually say. You say your problem is you don't have any problem. You know, if we don't have the problem of innovation or anything. So that one is sorted. Okay. So it boils down to two things: the presence of the challenge or the pain point or the problem, all right, and your will to achieve it. Okay, if that is sorted, everything will align, everything will make sense along the line. Sorry, I think I answered that question more philosophically than Miriam. I've answered your question. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, it was quite philosophical, but it does make sense. Like it actually does, it does make sense. And I hope this thing about being creators is really more about a mindset thing. And if we begin to realize that, as we've been as the create for those who believe in God, as human beings have been created after a creator, so are we, right? And since we're very creative beings, it means that if we just tap into that part of us, that innate thing in us, there's just something in us that wants to create, right? And it is because people like us looked at nature, looked at the world, and knew that it could be better. That's why we have most of the things that we have today. And so just think about how for the future generations, are we just going to um keep going with the flow and the status quo, right? And not even do new stuff. Doing new stuff might be a scary experience, right? But it's often a very rewarding experience, because two things happen. You either learn the way to go or the way not to go. And I think that that's worth the entire process of being a creator. And it's not even about wearing a new identity, because we are all creators in every field. We are all creators, no matter what our specialty is, no matter what our first degrees tell us we are, no matter what our professional work is. It doesn't even matter. I know that for the word creator is a buzzword these days, because we have a lot of people saying that, oh, they're creators and stuff, content creators, normal creators, whatever. And I don't, but I just want us to realize that it's not just an identity. It's not a garment we just wear. It is already a part of us. And regardless that it might be a popular term to use, it simply is just who we are. So thank you, sir, for reminding us how important it is that we, learn to think, learn to solve, learn to create, right? And again, I took down some notes, and something important that you had said is what is created takes the mind of the creator. And artificial intelligence is always going to be artificial intelligence. It's never really going to be compared to the soulful natural intelligence that humans have. And we really cannot improve artificial intelligence if we keep relying on artificial intelligence, quote unquote. So thank you very much, sir, for that amazing session. I hope that we are all learning and taking down notes. I've not seen any questions in the chat box, but again, do we have any questions? Okay. All right. There are no further questions then. Thank you, sir. All right. So we're moving to our second and last session for today. And our speaker's name is Oluwole Ajayi. Oluwole Ajayi is a software engineer at Turin, and he's currently at the forefront of building the next wave of e-commerce infrastructure in Africa. With over 4 years of experience in software engineering, he is dedicated to shaping the future of digital commerce across the continent. His expertise and innovative approach is driving the evolution of Africa's e-commerce landscape. And today, he would be speaking to us on critical thinking and problem solving, the foundation of sustainable innovation. So again, it's not enough to create, it's not enough to also innovate. They have to be sustainable as well. They have to be transferable. They have to be able to last. Our solutions have to be lasting solutions. And we are so privileged, so fortunate to have Oluwole today sharing with us critical thinking and problem solving. So a round of applause, a round of virtual applause. But again, for those of us that are just joining, please remember that this meeting is being recorded for posterity's sake. We have to share with community members and beyond who are unable to attend this session right now. If you have a question while the speaker shares, kindly drop them in the chat box. However, after his session, we are going to, open the floor for any questions. And again, because today we are discussing the subject of innovation. It doesn't necessarily have to be questions on those topics particularly. If there's something in the field that has been bothering you, if there's something around the topics that have been bothering you as well that you're curious to learn about, please share with us, and we're happy to discuss. This is a community of like minds, and the answer can come from anybody and everybody. Thank you so much. Welcome, Oluwole. Thank you so much for doing this with us. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me though.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Just to confirm, you can see my screen here. You know what? I'm gonna share.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just a moment, please. All right. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. As earlier mentioned, I'm Oluwole Ajayi. and I'm super delighted. I think first of all, I just love to thank the facilitators of this event, because I think this is a great job you guys are doing in terms of putting all of this together and ensuring that we have what I love to refer to as a safe space to come together to share our thoughts, share our ideas, and take learnings, right? And as such, the impact of this, I strongly believe, will be very evident for us all in subsequent years to come. Can I not share? Is that fine with me?
Yes, if you don't want to share your screen, that's fine. Whatever works for you.
Cool. Okay.
That's experiencing difficulty.
All right. So I'll just love for this to be an interactive session. That's why I'm choosing not to share, right? So as much as you can, either through the what's it called, through the emojis or even through the live chat, right? I'd just love to get like an active feedback from everyone as we proceed. Okay. So yeah, I think the topic set before us today is looking at beyond AI, the mindset of a creator. And I think at the initial stages when I saw this topic, it did feel like two topics in one, right? But I think for the sake of time, we'll just try to match this into one conversation and try to crystallize everything in such a way that we all, leave here with something. Okay. And I think kudos to the last speaker in a very big way. He has tried to, more technical than not, tried to ensure that we all get the point on the different layers that he had explained, right? But my job here is to just see if I can, still help us crystallize this, but in a different direction. Okay. All right. So I'd love to start this way, and I'd just love to start with a game that I think most of us should be familiar with. It's something that I would assume for a lot of us, we are quite aware, at least if you've been active on social media in the last few days or past months. All right. And the purpose of this game is to just try to see the kind of conceptions or even misconceptions that we have, particularly when it comes, to the subject of AI. What are the things we know? What are the fears we have? Right? What are the assumptions we have? And I know some of it has been mentioned already, and I think May gave her opinion, and I think the last speaker as well gave his opinion, but I would just love to get like a general view or a general feel of what everyone thinks about each of these. So it's called Put the Finger Down, right? It's called Put the Finger Down, and for most of us or for some of us rather, that are maybe not aware of what the game is, right? You have 5 fingers up, and as you proceed, right, based on what is being spelled out or what is being called out, you put the finger down to indicate that you are maybe guilty, or maybe you corroborate with the idea in such a way that, oh yeah, this feels personal, or this is referring to you. Okay. So if I may crave your indulgence for a bit, like let's just maybe I think 5 fingers up, and let's see how this goes, right? So I have about 5 questions here, or 5 things for to speak about, or get our opinions on. So let's just see. So first off, put the finger down. If you've ever conceived the notion, or you've ever thought about it, that at some point, either now or maybe in some time to come in the future, there's a chance or there's a possibility that AI will take over your job. And bear in mind, it might not be your job necessarily, but you've thought about it, about some jobs right now, and even maybe highlighted a couple in your head that you feel that at some point, AI will take over it. Put a finger down. Okay. These are need an interactive session. So, okay, let's see. All right. Next, I know a lot of us use LLM tools. I think the last speaker mentioned having to name ChatGPT. I was hoping you would get to tell us the name subsequently, but I know for some of us, we use these LLM tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud AI, and the rest of them. So put a finger down if you've ever used any of these tools, and the response you got from it, you trusted the response so much so that you did not bother to maybe verify or even validate the response gotten. All right, I'm seeing one finger down. Okay, that's good. Okay, put a finger down if you believe that at some point in future, there will come a time where AI will surpass human intelligence. I mean, just think about it from the trajectory of what you've seen, particularly in the last 2 years and even a couple months back, right? You think with this, at this rate, right, for something that started, say, 2.5 years back, right, at this rate, with this trajectory, there will come a time where AI would most likely surpass human intelligence, okay? I don't think that's a popular opinion. Okay, that's good. Also, I know the last speaker gave his opinion about it. Like I said, I just want to get the general feel of the room. Put a finger down if you think AI has a propensity to be more creative than humans. Interesting. And lastly, put a finger down if you're one of us, if you think AI has made you lazy. Put a finger down, just if you believe, let's confess, just if you believe AI has made you lazy, just put a finger down, okay? So let me know how many fingers you have down for the ones that, participated. Oh, nice, okay. All right, a couple more responses. Interesting, oh, wow. Okay, all right, I think, oh, 2, okay, nice. Okay, so it's quite obvious that maybe not at the forefront of our thoughts or ideas, but something is quite clear here. And what is clear is that we all have our thoughts, we all have our reservations, we all have our assumptions about AI, right? And my possible assumption here is that, for everyone on this call, we are tilted towards, being entrepreneurs, right? Either aspiring or maybe at the moment even being entrepreneurs, right? So the real question here, I think, should be that how does all of this, factor into our current reality and what a possible future holds for us, right? And even looking at the topic at hand beyond AI, what does that even refer to? Particularly for us, like, let's put this into context for a bit, right? For aspiring entrepreneurs, for instance, right? What does beyond AI mean in a sense? And how does that factor into my current reality? How should that affect the way I think, the way I go about my daily business, right? These are the questions that are posed before us today, and some of which I would just love for us to answer. I think some parts of it has been answered by the last speaker, right? But I'll just try to see how to, put all of it together in such a way that we can very much understand it, okay? So now, and also thinking about it, the mindset of a creator, really, if you think about it very vividly, what do you think, if you were to advise somebody, if you were to speak to an aspiring entrepreneur, what do you think he or she should know? What should his mindset be, particularly with the wave of technology at the moment, right? So these are some of the things that we need to, provide answers to, which, as much as I can, I would subsequently, okay? So, but everything I'll be saying today will be based on 2 points, and I'm going to give those 2 points now. And I think as we move forward, I'll try to explain them, right? So you can just take note of them, right? But the bedrock of everything I'll be saying was really based on these 2 points. And the first one is, I need us to understand that AI is a tool. That's the first point. I need us to understand really that AI is a tool. And in fact, the way I phrased it or the way I put it down in not a corny way, right, is AI is simply a tool. Or better put, AI is just a tool, right? That's the first point. I would explain what I mean by that subsequently. And the second one is, I also want us to understand, I mean, a key takeaway that I would love us to have on this call is to understand that the core of every idea is really proposed on optimizing people's lives. I'll explain, right? For some of us, you might get it, but I'll explain what I mean by that. But I need us to understand that the core or the foundation, the bedrock of any idea is really based or proposed on optimizing people's lives. Okay. All right. So those are the 2 points we'll be dealing with today, and we'll just try to see how far we can get with the time available. Right. So let's get started. AI is just a tool. What do I mean by that? And like I mentioned, I'm not trying to downplay the extent of what AI has done or try to relegate it to, I mean, the typical tools we use in our day-to-day life, like a screwdriver, hammer, or whatnot, right? I mean, AI is way more complex than those tools, right? But what I'm trying to point us to is something very important, which is particularly within the context of building, within the context of innovation, right? There are several narratives that are flying around, particularly in this time and age, right? With the rave of technology as it is, right? And it is one that is filled with fear rather than optimism for most people, right? Where we have fears about possible job displacement for people, right? As earlier mentioned, AI taking over jobs, right? Rendering people jobless, possibly. And we have some centered around automation, right? Where everybody just feels like, oh, a lot of things will get super automated, right? And hence, what that does is to replace human effort, replace human work. And I think for some other persons, it's almost tilted towards the factor that, I mean, if you're familiar with or if you've seen a lot of sci-fi movies, you can maybe agree with that, where there will come a time in future. I mean, there is a future set in place for us where at some point machines take over. I think we might have seen a bit of that with, I think Tesla's new release, the last, I don't know if anyone is familiar with it, but is it humanoids or what's it called? The robots that could, I mean, serve as an assistant to you. All of these things, right? These are certain fears that a lot of people have. And what you then get with this is you have most aspiring entrepreneurs trapped in a feeling of uncertainty, right? Where they tend to ask questions like, if AI is advancing this fast, right, what's the point of building? Or better put, they think in the direction of, if AI is advancing this fast, right, will my ideas even matter at the end of the day? Right? I can bet you, for a lot of people, this is the current reality, right? Particularly when you speak to people, right? Or even think within the lines of the ones that are already set entrepreneurs. They're asking questions of, at some point with the advancements AI is making, there's a good possibility that it will render my startup or my business obsolete at the end of the day. Right? We've seen, I mean, traces of this so far, where a lot of people are just, I mean, living with this level of uncertainty, living with this level of fear. Right? But before I even go further, let's face the reality. Let's be sure we're on the same page here. And I'm speaking from the perspective of someone that works in some way or form in the industry, right? The reality is AI will change lives. In fact, let me put it this way, AI will revolutionize life, right? It's something to come to terms with. It's a reality we need to bear, right? But the real question to be asked and answered here is, what should be our predisposition to this? What should be our mindset to this? Once we've made peace with the fact that life is going to be, I mean, greatly changed. This is, all we're talking about is, I mean, from the inception of ChatGPT, that was about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, thereabouts, if I'm not mistaken, right? In the space of 3 years, we've seen the different advancements that's come into play, all right? And even way back before then, I think with self-driving cars and stuff like that, right? But in this short time frame, we've seen this huge progress, right? Now think of what is to come, right? The question that's supposed to be answered is what's supposed to be our mindset? And better still, even as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, how do we tap into this, right? How do we, integrate our mindset into what is currently happening and not just be backbenchers, spectators, or what do you call it, right? These are the real questions that need to be answered. And this might not be good news for most people, but let me tell it as coming to be a good news, right? The reality I need you to have, or the reality I want us to have is AI is not the threat, right? And that's why I've tried as much as possible to simplify it. AI is not a threat. AI is not an obstacle, right? I need us to understand that. And what do I mean? For us to tap into the mindset of a creator, for us to see whatever wave of technology, and bear in mind, we could as well, this AI phase could, phase out in little or no time, and we could delve into a more advanced technology, say quantum computing, for example, right? Whatever tool, whatever phase, whatever era, whatever wave of technology we get into, understand this, they are not a threat. They are not an obstacle, right? The mindset we should have is to see them as what is called a force multiplier. And what this does is these are tools set in place to help us expand our capabilities as humans. And I think, like the last speaker said, which I think was brilliant, in terms of expanding our capabilities, or our capabilities as humans, rather, right? We need to focus on the things that truly defines us, right? And what are the things that truly defines us? This involves our problem solving, our creativity, our ability to define new possibilities for ourselves, our individuality, our perception, right? So once you look at these things, right, these innovations as tools, right, not from a blank state, but as things, right, set in place to take over the rather structured things, the repetitive things, the redundant things, right? So we can focus on the things that are really important, which, as I mentioned earlier, the things that defines us. At that point is when we begin to get it. Then we don't see it as a competition. Then we don't see it as a threat to our livelihood or to whatever idea we want to, build upon. Right. I think to buttress this, I remember the early years of my software engineering journey, right, when I got into the organization I was working for at the time. I got in as an intern, and I think most of us may be familiar with it. Please just a moment. Okay. Yeah, I got in as an intern at the time, and I don't know if any of us have seen this video, right? I saw it, I think, some months back, right, where it kind of showed the difference between a software engineer in a movie and a software engineer in reality. I don't know if anyone has seen it. If you've seen it, just thumbs up or something. Anyone? Okay, cool. All right. So show the difference between a software engineer in a movie and that's in reality. And typically, the software engineer in a movie, I think for most of us might have seen a lot of sci-fi movies. If you watch Flash, yeah, you've seen stuff like this, right? Software engineer in a movie is always typing so fast, always knows what to do. Typing blocks of codes really fast. Oh, I'm in. Knows just executing codes with so much ease. And in contrast, the software engineer in reality, that was me, by the way, but just to paint it, right? Typing so slowly, like 5 lines per 5 minutes, all of these things. At some point, you are stuck. Let's assume there's a blocker or there's a bug you're trying to fix, and you just sit there for hours just trying to figure out, okay, what can be done. I mean, when I saw it, I laughed so loud. And so, I mean, it just brought back a lot of memories for me, because I just remember that time where, I mean, it was even worse for me because I could spend days just trying to fix something, right? Or even had to bring people on calls, or and we start analyzing each block of code one by one to figure out what the issue is and all these things, right? But now, fast forward to today, where you have ChatGPT, you have all of these LLM tools, right? And consider what the reality of a software engineer now would be, where if he or she experiences a blocker, you don't just sit for 5 hours, time that could have been spent, energy that could have been spent on the really important things, right? You don't just sit for 5 hours trying to figure it out. And all you need to do is just copy, paste into the tool. It analyzes the code, gives you, I mean, shows you what the possible problems are, and gives you solution, and you're done, right? So when we begin to understand it from this perspective, where these tools come into play to help us achieve the really important things, because now for a software engineer, right, or the reality of software engineers now is you can build a feature, you can build an application in days, and as such, you're spending time on the really important things, the things that's, I mean, how to solve more problems, how to be more creative with what you built, how to fix or how to refine what you built in a way that it is better, I mean, more efficiently done, right? And those are the things that truly matters. Those are the things that truly defines us, right? So when we begin to see beyond thinking about the rate of technology or whatever tool comes into play as a threat, as the obstacle, and we begin to understand it from the point of leveraging those tools, right, and not seeing them as a competition, is when we understand, or when we begin to see a sense in them, right? Case in point, instead of asking, particularly for aspiring entrepreneurs, for example, instead of asking, will AI replace me? Will AI replace what I've done? Right? It's asking the important questions of, how do I make what I'm building, how do I make what I'm doing 10 times better with this tool? Because that's what really matters at the end of the day. Felicity Smoke. Yeah. So that's what really matters at the end of the day. How do I make this better using this? How do I utilize this to enhance this? Right. I think another example that's, I mean, sets the tone here is also Canva. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with Canva, for example. Canva is a graphics design tool that a lot of people use to, I mean, get digital art and all of these things, right? With how much AI has revolutionized the space of digital art, honestly, Canva should have folded up at this time, right? Because all you just need to do is, I mean, like I think the last speaker mentioned, generating an image, right, via a couple words, which he, I mean, prompted the model with, and an image was generated, which is almost the basis of what Canva exists upon, right? But rather than seeing AI, I mean, for the founders of Canva, rather than seeing AI as a competition, right, they embraced it. Okay, they embraced it. And now what you get with Canva is even more sophisticated, because they've integrated it into their, I mean, into their platform, into their product, in such a way that you can then use AI, right? I think there's a tool called Magic Box or something of that sort, right, where you can use AI for diverse things. And even with that, it has even allowed them to focus on, I mean, the core ideas, right? The things that really matter, things that enhances their platform, such that, which are some of the things that you might not necessarily get, right, with this LLM tool. So for us, right, my takeaway here is, for us aspiring entrepreneurs or even current entrepreneurs, right, don't think of it from an obsolete mindset, or a mindset that is rather defeated, where you just think, oh, these things are set in place to replace us, right, or to take over what we currently have, but instead see it from an objective standpoint, which is understanding that these are tools, right? AI or not, quantum computing or not, Web3 or not, these are tools, and they're set in place at the end of the day to help us take over the repetitive, time-wasting, redundant task, right? I think to just maybe wrap this up, um, I need us to understand that every great tool in history was created to free humans from limitations, and AI is no exception. Whatever it is, whatever level of technology is no exception, right? And what this is meant to do is to take over the predictable so we can focus on what is deemed remarkable. And once you understand this, trust me, it is going to change your perception. It is going to, engrave in you a mindset, the mindset of what we term a creator in this instance, okay? All right, so that's for the first point. The second point I mentioned is for us to understand that the core of every idea or every innovation is optimizing people's lives. And I think this is really important because I feel like once we get this, particularly for people looking to innovate, for people looking to build, for people looking to be creators, once we get this, right, it's much easier for us to build globally acceptable products, right, and not just products that are limited to our environment as it is. Okay. And to kind of explain this, I would love to create two distinctions here. One is there are two ways to think as a creator. One is from a problem-based mindset, and two from an optimization-based mindset, right? What you discover, particularly in this part of the world, is a lot of people are focused on the problem-based mindset, right? And what that implies is if you ask somebody, oh, let's figure out the solution to something, the first question they're asking you is, what's wrong? What's broken? Right? What's not working well with this, with a system, with a platform, right? And that's the way they prefer solutions to it. In itself, it's not a wrong way to think, right? Let's bear that in mind. But there's an efficient way to go about this, to think about this, right? Which is what I'm trying to make us understand here. Okay? So the distinction here is problem-based mindset and optimization-based mindset, right? And what an optimization-based mindset helps you do is to look at your friend, to look at anyone on this call, to look at your partner, to look at your neighbor, whoever it is. Look at their day-to-day life. Figure out aspect of their lives that is deemed repetitive, is deemed time-wasting, is deemed redundant, and try to optimize for it. When I say optimizing someone's life, right, you're looking at the entirety of their lives and looking for ways at which their lives could be made simpler. It's that simple. And I think I'll try to explain this using, sorry, just a moment. I'll try to explain this using an example. Okay. I'll try to explain this using an example. Let's assume on a Sunday afternoon, rather, you're coming back from church. You are kind of famished, and you need to get food. So you get into any of these restaurants that sells, any of these popular restaurants that sell food, like say Chicken Republic, for example, right? For most of us, or maybe the place. And this is, let's look at this from the context of being an entrepreneur, right? Looking to solve problems. Okay. So you step into Chicken Republic, and on getting there, remember you're famished. On getting there, you see a queue, a very long queue at that. Almost getting to the door. Right. Now, let's look at scenario A from a problem-based mindset. Right. Being an entrepreneur, you see the problem, and your immediate assessment is, okay, this is a queue, this is a problem. I'm hungry, right? How can this queue be made to go faster? That's the question you're asking yourself, right? Because when you're focusing on the problem, right, you are being reactive. That's what it does, right? So you look at the queue and think, how can this be made to go faster? Okay. And maybe a possible solution to that would be, oh, maybe we need to employ, there's need to employ, what's it called? More servers, or I don't know what they call it, waiters or servers, right, to dish out food for people such that, I mean, the queue is able to go a lot faster than what it currently is. Or I think for the place, for example, the issue is always with the payment system, right, where I don't think there are a lot of POS available, right? So maybe your solution to that would be thinking within the lines of maybe getting or acquiring more POS, or maybe even paying with cash, right? Like I said earlier, this solves the problem, right? We can all agree with that. This solves the problem, but is this the most efficient way to think about this, right? And thinking from a problem-based mindset, like I mentioned, is being reactive, because you see the problem and try to figure out what the possible solution to that problem is. But in contrast, when you think of it from the perspective of being optimization driven, for example, right? You get into the same situation, get into the same scenario, and your thoughts, the question you're asking immediately is different, because now you're asking the question of, how do I make getting food effortless? Remember I mentioned optimization is thinking about the person's life, an individual's life, right? And thinking, how can this be made better? Do you understand? Please thumbs up if you understand. I want to be sure we're following. Okay. Optimization is thinking, how can this person's life be made better? So now your question in that same scenario is different, because already you're thinking, how can I make the process of getting food effortless? How can I make it enjoyable for this person, such that this person does not need to expend this much time, expend this much energy, expend this much resources to getting food? And trust me, the solution you are getting from that would be maybe the possibility of building a mobile application, for example, where this person can just place an order at the comfort of their homes and it gets delivered to them, or even a subscription-based model where they pay at the start of the month, for example, and every day food is delivered to them, right? Now, these two instances, right, points to everybody seeing the same problem, right? I mean, tackling the same problem, but in different ways, because the mindset or the thinking, the thought process that has gone into it is different, right? Focusing on the problem makes you reactive. Focusing on optimizing the person's life makes you visionary, because you see beyond what is currently available. You see, now you're looking at it from a time perspective. You're looking at it from an effort perspective, right? You're looking at it from an energy perspective, rather. You're looking at it from a resource perspective, right? And this is the way to tap into a lot of the ideas you call global at the moment, right? The foundation of this is really about thinking of optimizing people's lives. If you think about it, I can give examples. There are repeat examples, right? Look at Uber, for example. What do you think the thought process of Uber was when they came up with that solution, rather? Because obviously, if you look at it from a problem-based perspective, the problem was there are not enough taxis, right? For you to move from one place to another, I mean, there were limited taxis, hike in price. That was the problem. That was the basis of, that was what spurred Uber, if you think about it, right? But now, if you look at it from a problem-based lens, right, your solution to that problem would have been maybe the acquisition of more taxes, or maybe reducing the fare of taxes in such a way that it's made available for people, right? But when you think about people's life, how do I make, focus on the question, how do I make this person's life easier? How do I make this person's life enjoyable? How do I reduce the effort? This person is having to spend this much time on this particular thing. How can this be optimized for? And that's how Uber came about to be. Even AI You think about it, like I mentioned, the example I gave earlier about myself, right? Making life easier such that you don't have to spend a lot of hours. But if you look at it individually from a problem-based perspective, or I mean, um, someone's having to, what's it called, write code and spend hours trying to figure out a solution or fix a blocker. I'm not trying to share that anybody, but that's how solutions like, let's say, Stack Overflow comes into play, right? Because what you're seeing as from a problem-based lens is, okay, this is the issue, you're spending much time, let's have a community, for example, where people can, I mean, you've solved this before, input your answer, but when you're thinking about it from optimizing people's lives, where this can be made a lot easier, you develop solutions like, I mean, AI inclined solutions, for example. And that is, trust me, if you begin to tilt your ideas or teach your ideology or change your mindset in this perspective, you see things differently. You develop solutions that are tempt visionary, because problems are not specific or, I mean, peculiar to certain people, right? Whatever someone here is having to expend a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of resources to, someone over there is also having to do that. So once you're able to think in that perspective, right, what affects, in this case, the goose rather, also affects the gander, right? You are already, even without thinking about it, building a global solution, right? So like I mentioned, I hope we all get it. Okay, please thumbs up if you get it. All right, cool. All right, so that's, I mean, everything I came here to speak about today. And I really just hope that we leave here with a mindset, right, of thinking about or thinking of whatever area of technology comes into play as tools, not replacements, right? Would there ever come a time where AI rather would be greater than humans? I don't know. I can't answer that, right? But all I can tell you is, sure, it might be an hint of that, possibly, because if we're having to deal with data, and if we're able to refine data in such a way that it hallucinates less, I mean, I don't want to create possibilities here, but or will ever come a time where machines will take over? Possibly, I can't tell, but really just understand that they are not replacements, right? And tap into the possibility of seeing them as force multipliers, right? To enhance our capabilities, to help us focus, particularly as entrepreneurs, on things that matters, things that are specific to us, the things that defines us as humans, right? And also in terms of understanding how to come up with solutions, how to solve problems, right? Look at your neighbor, look at your friend, look at your sibling, look at their lives. What do they do on a day-to-day basis that is expending their time, expending their efforts, expending their energy, expending their resources? And I mean, zoom in on it and you discover that you have a solution. And that's all I meant to say. Thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure being here.
Hi, Temitayo. Could you please mute your mic? But thank you so much, Oluwole. Thank you so much. That was beyond AI from a software engineer's perspective. Thank you so much. So I think we have a few questions. I saw a raise their hand. I'm not sure if the Ecom is a male or a female. And then I think Temitayo raised their hand as well. So do we have any questions? People who raised hands, are those for questions? Okay, no response yet. But yes, thank you so much, Wally. That was very insightful. So you guys, just in case AI takes over the world and the robots are our new leaders, maybe start being kind to ChatGPT and Claude from now on. Say please, say thank you, just in case. We don't know for sure. But the chances of that are like, very less likely, because I honestly do not ever see a world where the created can surpass the creator. However, there are mysteries that may unfold. Well, thank you very much, Wally. That was very insightful. I mean, for me, from a software engineer's perspective, that was really, really insightful. So I have a question here. First question. What strategies do you believe are essential for organizations to foster a culture of creative thinking amongst their teams? We have a few people here who are entrepreneurs. We saw from the registrations, and a few people, were wondering how to, incorporate our discussions into their team building, their community building, their organization building. So, what do you think are some strategies that they can employ to foster a culture of critical thinking amongst their teams, that even though they have access to a lot of tools, they do not get lazy about them and they're able to approach problems from an innovative mindset? So what strategies do you think we can begin to employ?
Yeah, is the question for me?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Please come again with the question. Apologies.
Okay, what strategies do you think we can, what strategies do you believe are essential for organizations to foster a culture of critical thinking amongst their teams? I was saying that a few of our attendees today had indicated that they were entrepreneurs, and some questions that they had, put in the registrations were mostly about how they can begin to incorporate critical thinking, creators' mindset, and the rest of it into their organizations, into their team building, their community building, their organization startup, stuff like that. So, what strategies do you believe are essential for organizations to foster a culture of creative thinking amongst their employees, amongst their team members?
Okay. I think I'm just trying to figure out the direction or the best way to go about this. I mean, creative thinking, my short answer would have been AI Gen Z, but let's go with the serious one. So I think in terms of just looking at it, I mean, building a structure, right? Like I mentioned, understanding the rave of technology as tools, right? And not trying to limit people using it, right? In fact, embracing the fact that people use it, right? But also at the side or at the same time, just really ensuring that, first off, I think why I'm struggling with this question is really just understanding what the mindset of the organization is, right? Or how free people are allowed in terms of, I mean, the bandwidth of allowance for people in terms of being expressive, right? Because if we're talking about creativity or if you're talking about critical thinking, right, it's all embedded in how much you are allowed to contribute, right? So if you create a space where people can, I mean, easily share their thoughts, easily, I mean, during maybe meetings or stand-ups, right? It's not a unilateral system, right? Where it's one person giving instructions. And I mean, it's an open system where everybody's allowed to give their contributions. Everybody's allowed to say it, too, in terms of what they perceive or what they think or the direction at which they, I mean, consider this to be best on, right? It's I think in itself is a really powerful system, really powerful way to ensure that that structure of critical thinking is sustained or maybe encouraged, right? Because we've all attested to the fact that, I mean, technology has a propensity to make us lazy, right? So, but what helps us, or what, I mean, steers people up is, I mean, just ensuring that you're asking questions. You're not just, I mean, taking the role of being, I mean, dishing out instructions, right? You ask people, what do you think? What direction do you think is best for us? Just straight up and have an open house, have an open system, right? And I best believe that this would help everybody get into that, even if they don't initially want to be, right? It's just set everybody on that pedestal of, I mean, being critical thinkers, because now they kind of expect that questions to be asked. They kind of expect that there's, I mean, there's an expectation for them to be a part of something, not just within their role, but beyond that, right? And I think that should go a long way.
Okay, thank you so much. Throwing it open to the house can, be very effective in learning how to best help your employees. All right. Are there more questions from the audience here? If you have any questions on the subject of innovation, on the subject of being a creator, on the subject of AI and blockchain, please feel free to ask while we're, prepared to wrap up. Or speakers, do you have questions for the audience?
I've asked all my questions. The
Uh,
audience, they have asked my questions already. So the audience needs to go and answer the questions at their own leisure, think about them, think about the questions, and keep preferring answers to the questions to the best of their capacity. Yeah.
All right, no problem. All right, for both of you, anyways, anyone can answer. Another question is, in your views, in your respective views, what is the biggest barrier to effective problem solving and creating in today's tech environment, and how can we overcome it? Something that's been happening on Twitter, a lot of discourse has been happening. I don't advise people to be on Twitter, but if you get to the good side of Twitter, you will see that a lot of discourse, in fact, it's not even the good side of Twitter, but sure, a lot of discourse has been happening, right? About how um for Nigerians, for instance, we shouldn't really be dying on the heel of AI because we are still so far back behind. And questions, views such as this, pop up every 2 days, really. And we see that the question is, are we really making a difference? Are we really moving forward? And what is the biggest barrier that we are currently facing to effective problem solving in our tech environments in Nigeria, in Africa? Because I know this is an African community. I know that we have attendees from different parts of the world. And how can we overcome this barrier? How can we go past this hurdle?
Okay. This is a question that has many layers, many possibilities, many perspectives. um, but let me see if I can give a simple yet effective approach, yeah, to this. For every problem, regardless of what the problem is and the layers of the problem, what seemed to be the greatest challenge or greatest stumbling block for effective problem solving is what I like to call problem understanding. You see here, to speak to the scenario you highlighted, in Africa, and I'd like to expand that scenario to the context of Africa, the entire African continent and African people. We are such a unique race of people with very, very deep issues that span across decades of of wars, corruption, systemic failures, and a whole lot of other things. So trying to fix our situation takes more than one or two dimensional approach. You have to have a multi-dimensional view to it and tackle it multidimensionally. So that's why the people who opine that AI is not the next thing in Nigeria, they can be right. As a matter of fact, you could say that they are right. And the people who say, oh, let's push for AI technology and all that, they are also right. Because depending on where you stand, you definitely will see differently. If you are standing on the pulpit of the politicians or those in governance, what you will see is different from if you are standing in the congregation. And depending on where you stand in the congregation, either you are sitting in the front, or you are sitting at the back, or you are sitting at one angle, or you are sitting behind a pillar, you definitely see differently, right? But if you are able to see all sides, and then you see it from the right, from the left, from front, from back, you see it from the top, you see it from bottom, you see it 3-dimensionally, you see it 4-dimensionally, you see it 7-dimensionally, all of that, you then see that, fixing that particular situation goes beyond it's like you have to block many holes at the same time. So basically, so that I don't want to tread too far now, the approach is understanding. You need to understand what you are dealing with. Okay. And for everybody listening to me, really, you need to understand what you are dealing with beyond the surface. The more you understand it, understand the situation, understand the environment, understand the factors at play, understand the cause effects links or linkages, the better it becomes for you to solve it or for you to address it, right? And when you try to puzzle together what we are dealing with in this part of the world, you see that it's a lot. It's a lot. So it's a lot. There are many possible solutions, right? Many possible things that you can do, and that's why I agree with what the second speaker said about sometimes it's not about focusing on the problem, it's about focusing on how you can optimize. It's sometimes it's not, how to address issues is not even from a problem based or problem angle or using the problem binoculars to view it, but using a different binoculars to basically optimize it, rather than quickly try. So sometimes you do not have to put out the fire, you simply need to manage the fire. That's how I see it. So it's a lot basically. So I'm trying not to prefer an exact solution, but I'm trying to address a more foundational matter, that will lead everybody to think towards addressing the solution as it applies, that will lead everybody towards profiling solutions as it applies to our lives and as it applies to us. Okay, which is understand the problem, understand the situation, and then it becomes clearer. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So what we can take from that is the key to effective problem solving is first effective problem understanding. And with that, since we have no other questions, we've come to the end of our discussion today. And I would like to thank everyone, starting from our speakers who have shared so beautifully well on their topics. And thank you to everyone who has stayed from start to the end. For those who joined us along the way, thank you so much, everybody, for taking out the time to, spend your Thursday afternoon here with us discussing on the subject of innovation. Today, we have learned that innovation is not about chasing every new trend. We've learned that problem solving is not about actually problem solving. And we've learned that it's all about nurturing our inner creativity, challenging our assumptions, and boldly stepping forward to solve problems in ways that are uniquely ours, really. So whether you're an entrepreneur, a developer, a student, an educator, or simply a believer in Africa's potential, in your organization's potential, in our system's potential, I really hope that the insights that has been shared with us today remind us that our greatest asset is our ability to think, to solve, and create beyond the ordinary. I can't remember who said it, but someone had said, I think, therefore I am. And so always remember that your most important asset is your ability to think, solve, and create. So as we leave today, I'd encourage you to carry these ideas into your everyday work. It doesn't matter the field you are in: healthcare, tech, entertainment, fashion, arts and culture, media, whatever else, teaching, education, governance, finance. Let these ideas inspire you to build solutions, or at least be a part of solutions that not only address today's challenges, but also pave the way for a brighter and more innovative future for your system, for your organization, for your country, and for Africa. The future is in our hands, and that's not even a cliche statement. It's as real as day. So thank you again for your energy, for your questions, for your participation, for doing one finger down and 50 fingers up, and for your commitment to growth. Because if you are not committed to your growth, you honestly will not be a part of this. And so we celebrate you for that. We are AIBIA, and you can please follow us on all of our platforms on X, LinkedIn, at AIBIA Africa. We are a tech space, a community that's fostering innovation and bridging the gap for AI and blockchain in Africa. We are not just limited to Nigeria, but Africa as well. So let's keep this conversation going on. There's a Discord channel that you can find on our bios. Let's keep building and let's transform the future together. I've provided a feedback link in the chat box, so please let us know how this conversation was for you, so that we are able to improve your learning and your interactions here at AIBIA. We do this every month. So next month, we're going to have another array of speakers sharing with us something absolutely profound. So keep your fingers up. And Kenya, you are up next. AIBIA is coming to Kenya. So if you are in Kenya and you'd like to volunteer with us, kindly send a DM to any of our platforms, although we are going to provide a volunteer form this weekend that people can fill, but please let others that you know are in Kenya. Kenya, it is your time. We are coming. Q1 is for Kenya. And, thank you so much, guys. Stay connected. Share with the world what you've learned today. The journey of innovation is really just beginning, and it begins with us. Have a lovely, lovely day, and see you at our next event. Thank you. I'm your host, Mary McQuarrie, and it was lovely to host you all today. Thank you so much. Bye.